The stage is set, the tension is high, and the fight between Jake Paul and Nate Diaz is just around the corner. As the two fighters prepare to step into the ring, fight fans around the world are buzzing with anticipation and speculation about who will come out on top. But what about the fighters themselves? What do they think about their chances of victory? From Conor McGregor to Anderson Silva, these fighters predict who will win. The feud between these two fighters has been simmering for quite some time, and now they're finally going to settle their differences in the ring on August 5th in Dallas. Jake Paul, the 26-year-old YouTube star turned professional boxer, is coming off his first defeat, losing a split decision to Tommy Fury in February. This loss put a blemish on his professional record, and many fans were curious to see what he would do next in his boxing career. A rematch with Fury seemed like an obvious choice, but others thought a fight against fellow YouTube star KSI would be the biggest money fight for Paul at the moment. However, it's Nate Diaz who will be facing off against Paul in the ring, and it's not hard to see why. The tension and bad blood between the two fighters is very real, with Diaz even getting into a physical altercation with a member of Paul's camp backstage at an event headlined by Paul and Anderson Silva. This altercation prompted Paul to call Diaz out, saying that he was acting like a bitch and challenging him to stop fighting people for free in hallways and instead fight him in the ring.
Nate Diaz was here acting like everyone wants that fight. He tried to fight people in the hallway. Stop fighting people for free.
Diaz, for his part, has been critical of the Paul family, calling them a shithead family in a video he shared on social media. This build-up to this fight has been intense, with both fighters trading barbs and insults in the lead-up to their August showdown. And while Diaz is making his boxing debut, he's no stranger to combat sports, with a long and successful career in the UFC. His last fight was a submission win over Tony Ferguson in September 2022, and he's sure to bring all of his skills and experience to the ring when he faces off against Paul. As for Paul, he's been on a meteoric rise in the world of boxing, thanks in no small part to his massive following on social media. But with a loss to Fury on his record, he's more motivated than ever to prove himself in the ring and show that he's not just a social media star, he's a real fighter. One of the most intriguing aspects of this fight between Jake Paul and Nate Diaz is the potential for a rematch under MMA rules. Jake announced earlier this year that he had signed with the Professional Fighters League and that he had offered Diaz a 2-fight contract, with the first fight taking place in a boxing ring and the second fight under MMA rules. This would be an unprecedented move, with two fighters from different backgrounds and disciplines facing off in two different types of combat sports. It's a bold move by Paul, who is known for his willingness to push the boundaries of what's possible in combat sports. But it's unclear whether the second fight under MMA rules is still on the table. With the first fight taking place on August 5th, all eyes will be on Paul and Diaz to see how they perform in the boxing ring. That's if the fight lives up to the hype. And there's every reason to believe that it will. Then the demand for a rematch under MMA rules will be at an all-time high. But even if the second fight doesn't happen, the fact that two fighters from such different backgrounds are facing off in the first place is a testament to the power of combat sports. It's a reminder that no matter where you come from or what your background is, there's always a place for you in the world of combat sports. Speaking to Inside Fighting over the weekend, McGregor dropped a bombshell prediction for the fight, saying Nate Diaz slaps the head off Jake, and I look forward to seeing it.
I think Nate Diaz slaps the head off, and I look forward to seeing it.
Paul, never one to back down from a challenge, fired back on Twitter, claiming that he's a better boxer than McGregor and that he will do what McGregor couldn't do and knock Nate out. Paul even proposed a co-main event boxing match against McGregor after the Nate Diaz fight, to take place on the same night as the highly anticipated bout between Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano in Dublin. It's clear that Paul is not content with just being a YouTube star turned boxer, as he continues to call out some of the biggest names in combat sports, and with victories over former UFC stars like Ben Askren, Tyron Woodley, and Anderson Silva already under his belt, he's certainly building a strong case for himself as a legitimate boxer. And while he may be a newcomer to boxing, he's certainly no slouch when it comes to striking. It remains to be seen whether McGregor will actually attend the fight or whether he'll be off on the Lamborghini just off the coast of Sicily as he suggested.
Would you be ringside for that? Jesus, I'll probably be on the Lamborghini just off the coast of Sicily.
But one thing's for sure, with both McGregor and Paul making bold predictions for the fight, the anticipation for this showdown between Paul and Diaz is higher than ever. It seems like everyone has an opinion on the upcoming fight between Jake Paul and Nate Diaz, and former UFC star Anderson Silva is no exception. Silva, who fought Paul in a boxing match last year, recently gave his prediction for the fight, and it may surprise some fans. Despite many odds makers giving the edge to Paul, Silva thinks that Diaz is the favorite to win. Nate is more experienced, he has good boxing and good cardio. Silva told Fight Hub TV, "When you go to fight him, you need to prepare for war." Silva's prediction may come as a surprise to some, as Paul has been on a hot streak in his brief boxing career, beating Silva himself. But Silva seems to have a deep respect for Diaz's skills and believes that his experience and toughness will give him the edge in the fight. That's not to say that Silva doesn't think highly of Paul, however. He praised the YouTuber turned boxer for his professionalism and dedication to the sport. "Jake's training a lot," Silva said. "People need to respect everything he's doing because it's very professional and focused." Silva's insight is valuable, as he's one of the few fighters who has actually stepped into the ring with Paul. But as with any combat sports matchup, anything can happen on fight night, and fans will have to tune in on August 5th to see who comes out on top. Logan Paul has also been making waves in the boxing world with his desire to take on former UFC star Nate Diaz. However, some fans are wondering if he's trying to steal the spotlight from his brother, Jake Paul, who has been dominating the sport in recent years. In a recent interview with BT Sports' Ariel Helwani, Logan expressed his frustration with Diaz's apparent reluctance to take the fight. "I thought it was close to being locked in," Logan said. "I think this guy might be running from me." Logan went on to explain that he believes he would bring in significant numbers for the fight and that Diaz should see it as an opportunity to capitalize on his popularity. "You're going to get 750,000 to 1 million buys, and I'm an 01 YouTuber," Logan said. Seems like an easy fight on paper, no? Some fans have speculated that Logan's desire to take on Diaz may be an attempt to steal some of the limelight from his brother, Jake, who has been making headlines with his own high-profile fights against former UFC stars like Ben Askren, Tyron Woodley, and Anderson Silva. However, it's worth noting that Logan has been involved in the boxing world for years, having already fought fellow YouTuber KSI in 2 high-profile matches. And with his brother continuing to dominate in the sport, it's clear that the Paul brothers are a force to be reckoned with in combat sports. Whether or not Logan will ever get the chance to take on Diaz remains to be seen. But one thing's for sure, the Paul brothers will continue to make waves in the world of boxing and beyond.